It begins in the shadows, not the kind of darkness that destroys, but the kind that awakens. You don't ask for it. You don't seek it out. But one day, you wake up and realize you've been walking through life carrying something no one else sees, something ancient, something heavy, something sacred. And while others seem to move through the world with clarity and comfort, you've been carved open by pain, silence, and the weight of invisible truths. That is the first whisper of the dark chosen path. Not a path of light and ease, but of depth, of transformation, of unseen power. If this resonates, you're not broken. You're not behind. You're being initiated. And there are signs, hidden traits that show you're not just wandering in the dark. You're being led. The first hidden trait is the unbearable sense that you don't belong anywhere. You could be surrounded by people, loved even, but still feel like your soul is orbiting a different star. This is not social anxiety. It's dimensional awareness. You're tuned into something deeper, something wider. And the reason nothing external satisfies you is because your soul didn't come here to fit in it, came here to awaken something forgotten. You were born with a frequency that disrupts the matrix, and the price of that is early exile. But what if exile is the doorway to remembrance? What if belonging was never the goal, but initiation into a higher truth? The second trait is a deep emotional intensity that others can't seem to understand. You don't cry just because you're sad, you cry because you feel the collective. You get angry not just at injustice, but at the slowness of human evolution. You feel the pain of strangers. You feel the silence in someone's voice. You feel timelines collapsing, energy shifting, spirits moving through rooms. It's more than emotion, it's energetic sensitivity. And for a dark chosen one, this intensity is not dysfunction. It's your compass. It's how you read the unseen. But you were taught to suppress it, to numb it, to calm down. That was the world trying to dim the very flame you were born to carry.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The third trait is that you've been through multiple ego deaths, often before you even understood what that meant. You've lost everything. Not just material things, but identities, labels, roles, relationships that defined you. And every time, something in you shattered and something else was born. You couldn't explain it, but you knew that version of you had to die for something more real to live. That's because your soul is not interested in comfort, it's committed to truth. And the dark chosen path is the path of alchemical death. You are being stripped not to be punished, but to be prepared. Because what's coming through you cannot be built on illusion. It must rise from your ashes. Let me ask you something that will challenge everything you've ever believed. What if the pain you've been trying to escape is the exact portal to your purpose? What if your wounds are not detours, but maps? What if the moments you thought were destroying you were actually decoding you? You see, the dark chosen ones are not destroyed by the fire. We become it. We learn to burn without turning to ash. We learn to transmute agony into insight, rejection into redirection, silence into sacred resonance. And that's not something you can read in a book. That's something you earn in the underworld. The fourth trait is the ability to see through people instantly. You can meet someone once and know their entire emotional landscape. You know who's lying, even when they're smiling. You know who's hiding, even when they're loud. You don't just read energy, you absorb it. And that's what makes you both powerful and exhausted. Because this gift is rare, and without boundaries, it becomes a curse. That's why the dark chosen ones often isolate, not because we hate people, but because we feel them too deeply. But once you learn to manage this gift, once you learn to witness without absorbing, your sight becomes a weapon of truth, a mirror that shatters illusion. And in a world built on masks, that is revolutionary. The fifth trait is that your life never seems to follow the rules. You try to do what others do, get the job, follow the path, settle down, but something always disrupts it. Either you sabotage it, or it collapses on its own. That's because your path is not linear. It's spiral, it's quantum, it's coded with divine interruptions. The universe won't let you settle into normalcy because your soul didn't come here for normal. It came here to break patterns, to dismantle karmic loops, and to anchor new codes into the collective grid. That means your life will look like chaos to others. But to those who can see, it's choreography. It's sacred disorder. It's the dance of destiny unfolding in real time. Let me ask you something that most people never dare to consider. Are you willing to stop waiting for your life to make sense to others in order to finally honor the way it makes sense to your soul? Because the moment you stop explaining, justifying, or apologizing for your path is the moment it begins to open. You start to receive guidance not from logic, but from alignment. Not from approval, but from resonance. And that shift changes everything. Because the dark chosen ones don't ask for permission. We remember our assignment, and we move accordingly. The sixth hidden trait is the experience of being repeatedly misunderstood, even by those closest to you. Your insights are too deep. Your energy is too intense. Your dreams are too big. And at some point, you may have started to shrink yourself, to make others comfortable, to survive. But survival is not your mission. Awakening is. And to awaken, you must reclaim the parts of you that were exiled. You must stop watering yourself down. Because the more you abandon yourself for belonging, the more you delay your path. And your path is not just about you. It's about the souls you're here to activate through your unapologetic truth. The seventh and most hidden trait is your relationship with darkness itself. You don't fear it. You understand it. You've danced with your demons. You've sat in silence with your shadows. You've faced parts of yourself that most people spend lifetimes avoiding. And instead of being broken by them, you became whole. That's the paradox of the dark chosen one. We don't chase the light, we become it by descending first. We earn our radiance through ruin, and because of that, our light doesn't flicker. It burns steady. It guides others not from above, but from beside them in the dark. Let me ask you something only your soul can answer. What if your darkness is not something to fix, but something to harness? What if your rage is sacred? What if your grief is wisdom? What if your silence is power? What if the very parts of you that you've been taught to hide are the exact keys to unlocking your path? This is the truth they never told you, because they were afraid of what you'd become if you remembered. You are not here to escape your darkness. You are here to integrate it, to walk with it, and to lead with it. And in doing so, you activate a frequency that cannot be faked, cannot be taught, cannot be bought. It is ancient, it is earned, and it is yours. There comes a point on the dark chosen path when the world no longer feels like a place you live in, but a mirror you constantly walk through. Everything begins to reflect you back to yourself, not in surface-level ways, but in archetypes, in patterns, in echoes that come from lifetimes ago. You start to realize that the people in your life are not just companions or enemies, they are karmic keys, each one unlocking a layer of your own soul. Even the ones who hurt you weren't random, they were coded into your path to awaken dormant pieces of your power. And once you understand this, your relationship with pain changes forever. You stop asking why it happened to you, and you start asking what it came to activate. The dark chosen ones are not here to be comfortable. We are here to interrupt the sleep of the world. And to do that, we must go through a level of soul surgery so deep that most people would never survive it. That's why your path has been so hard. That's why you've had to walk alone. Because the fire you carry cannot be passed through lineage, religion, or tradition. It must be forged through direct experience. You were never meant to be taught. You were meant to remember. And remembering only happens when the illusion starts to fall apart. One of the most misunderstood elements of the dark chosen journey is that we often appear to fall backward just before we rise. You'll feel like you're losing everything, like your progress is reversing, like you're being punished. But it's not punishment, it's purification. Your soul is shedding everything that cannot hold the frequency of your next chapter. And yes, it feels like death, because it is. It's the death of the version of you that was built to survive, not to thrive. And if you try to hold on to them, you'll suffer. But if you let go, you will rise in ways that defy every rule this world has ever taught you. Let me ask you something that will stretch your perception. What if the breakdown you're in right now isn't a setback, but a sacred rewind, your soul pulling you back, only to launch you into a timeline so powerful you'd never believe it unless you felt it first? What if the pain isn't regression, but acceleration? What if what you're calling chaos is really divine reordering? This is how the dark chosen ones move. We don't rise in straight lines. We rise in spirals. We descend to ascend. We break to rebuild stronger. Every fall is coded with the rise. There's a kind of power that comes only from surviving yourself. Not just external challenges, but your own shadows, your own self-doubt, your own self-destruction, the parts of you that tried to sabotage the mission. And when you finally face them, not with shame, but with curiosity, you unlock something no one can take from you. You become unshakable, because you've already lived through the storm within. And once you've made peace with your own darkness, no one else's darkness can control you. That is the essence of the dark chosen ones. We are not afraid of the dark, because we are the dark that chose to awaken. This is why people either fear you or are magnetically drawn to you. Your energy triggers something deep in them. It reminds them of their own unactivated potential. But potential is terrifying to those still invested in their masks. So some will project, some will attack, some will leave, and you must let them. You must not shrink to keep them comfortable. Because your presence is not here to coddle, it's here to awaken. And awakening is violent to the ego. You must be willing to be misunderstood, misread, even demonized. Because the dark chosen ones don't come to be liked. We come to liberate. Let me ask you something most people never consider. How much of your energy have you wasted trying to explain yourself to people who were never meant to understand you? What if that energy was meant to fuel your next evolution? What if your silence is more powerful than their approval? What if your path was never about convincing, but about becoming so fully yourself that the world can't ignore what you carry anymore? This is not arrogance. This is alignment. And once you stop explaining, you start embodying. And embodiment is where the true shift happens. Another hidden trait of the dark chosen ones is that we carry a dual frequency, one for destruction, one for creation. We are not just healers, we are disruptors. We carry the codes that break generational cycles, ancestral curses, collective illusions. And that means our lives are often filled with extremes, highs that feel like divinity, lows that feel like death. Because we are not here to play in the shallow end. We are here to dive to the roots and pull up everything that no longer belongs in this realm. That's why your life has been full of rebirths. You're not unstable. You're evolving faster than the system knows how to handle. Your mind may have called it depression, burnout, nihilism. But your soul knows it as sacred withdrawal, a pulling back before the next activation, a cocooning before the next expansion. This is not weakness. This is design. You are being recalibrated, rewired, restructured from the inside out. And the world cannot see that, but you feel it. You feel the tectonic shifts within your chest, the weight of timelines collapsing in your bones. That's not imagination. That's memory. You've been here before, and you're here now to finish what you started. Let me ask you something so honest it might hurt. Are you still waiting for someone to validate the fire you were born to carry? Because if you are, you'll die waiting. The system was never built to recognize us. That's why we were hidden. That's why we were scattered across the planet, born into chaos, raised by resistance. To learn not how to fit in, but how to rise in spite of everything. And now that you remember who you are, it's time to stop waiting. It's time to stop hiding. It's time to stop diluting your frequency to survive in a world you were born to transform. This is not a motivational speech. This is a spiritual transmission, a remembering, a call to rise. Because the longer you pretend to be asleep, the heavier the burden becomes. And the truth is, you've always known. You've always felt it. The difference is, now you're ready to live it. There is a moment on this path when you stop asking how to escape the darkness and begin to ask what it came to teach you. This is when you cross the threshold from victim to vessel. You realize that your wounds were never meant to be hidden, they were meant to be alchemized. The scars on your spirit are not signs of failure, they are sigils of initiation. And the world that once rejected you begins to mirror you differently, not because it understands you, but because it starts to feel your frequency. That's when you know you've activated something ancient, something that was never meant to be tamed, something that humbles you, even as it empowers you. The dark chosen ones are not here to play roles, we are here to rewrite the script. That's why every time you tried to fit in, something inside of you rebelled. That rebellion wasn't dysfunction. It was divine resistance. Your soul knew what your mind forgot, that you weren't sent here to blend into dying systems. You were sent here to reveal the cracks, to shake the foundations, to be the thunder before the storm of awakening. And yes, that means you will be misunderstood. You will be labeled. But you must remember, every revolutionary was first called mad. Every prophet was first called dangerous. Let me ask you something only your future self can answer. What would your life look like if you stopped negotiating with your power? What if you stopped dimming, shrinking, second-guessing just to keep others comfortable in your presence? What if you allowed your full intensity to come online, not to dominate, but to liberate? Because that's what your power is for. Not control, not ego, but liberation. And when you stop apologizing for it, you give others permission to do the same. That's how the dark chosen ones lead, not with noise, but with frequency. It's important to understand that your path will never be linear. You will not move from A to B like others. You will move in spirals, detours, quantum leaps, and sudden resets. Because your path is not about progression, it's about remembrance. And remembrance often requires collapse. The collapse of false selves, false timelines, false attachments. Every time you feel like your life is falling apart, ask yourself, what is trying to emerge beneath the wreckage? Because the dark chosen ones are not destroyed by chaos, we are revealed through it. You'll also notice that as your awareness expands, your tolerance for anything inauthentic shrinks. And you can no longer be in rooms where truth is a performance. You can no longer smile through noise that your nervous system registers as spiritual poison. You don't hate these spaces, you just outgrow them. And that's part of the loneliness we all face on this path. Not because we're better, but because we're vibrating on a frequency that demands depth, intimacy, realness, and that requires solitude before it finds resonance. Don't fear the loneliness. It's making space for your soul tribe, the ones who speak the language of frequency, not ego. Let me ask you something most haven't dared to face. Are you willing to walk alone long enough to meet the version of yourself who no longer needs the world's approval? Because that version of you is waiting. And when you meet them, everything changes. You stop chasing. You stop pleasing. You stop performing. You begin to move with the authority of someone who remembers their assignment. And that memory is not loud, it's sacred. It doesn't shout, it radiates. It doesn't demand, it attracts. As you embody more of your true path, you'll also begin to experience timelines collapsing around you. People will fall away. Opportunities will vanish. Identities will dissolve. This is not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're finally doing something real. Your frequency is recalibrating your external world. And what no longer matches must leave. That's the cost of evolution. But it's also the reward. Because what comes next is not just a better version of your life, it's a truer one. One that doesn't require masks. One that doesn't require sacrifice of soul. One that feels like breathing for the first time. You'll also begin to receive guidance in ways that defy logic. Dreams that feel like prophecies. Synchronicities that feel too precise to be random. Messages that come through people who don't even know what they're saying. This is the return of divine intelligence through your field. And you must learn to trust it, not blindly, but intuitively. You don't need a guru. You don't need a system. You need stillness. You need to listen. Because the voice of your own knowing is the most accurate compass you will ever have. Let me ask you something that could collapse a false timeline today. Are you living according to your guidance or according to your programming? Because one will lead you to freedom and the other will lead you back into the maze. And if you're watching this, chances are you're done with the maze. You're done with the loops. You're done with the masks. You're ready to move as the frequency you came here to anchor. No more waiting. No more hesitating. Just remembering and becoming. You are not just a seeker. You are a signal. You are not just healing. You are transmitting. And your energy has already begun to shift the field of everyone who encounters you, even if they don't understand it yet. You are not just on a path, you are the path, the bridge between dimensions, the oracle in disguise, the one who descended not to escape, but to retrieve the codes the world forgot. And now that you've remembered, the only thing left is to move. Move differently, speak differently, choose differently. No more negotiating with your mission. No more watering down your presence. The time for hiding is over. The time for waiting is gone. The time for becoming has arrived. So now I leave you with one final question. The kind that only your soul can answer and only your future can witness. If you fully embodied the darkest, truest, most magnificent version of yourself, what would this world never recover from? Because that version of you is real, and it's time.